I'm your host, Nick Ginsberg, and you're listening to The Open Drive, a podcast focusing on authentic living and defining your own path against the odds. Well, hi there. Welcome back. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I'm so excited that you're here listening to the Open Drive podcast. It is obviously, as you know, something I'm very passionate about. So I'm super excited to have you here. So thank you for listening. Before we dive into today's episode, just a reminder that we will cover off throughout these episodes a number of heavier topics. So we will be talking about childhood trauma, addiction, mental health, you name it, we kind of talk about it. So just a heads up. And as you know from the previous episodes, if you are not following me on Instagram, please make sure you head over and follow me. My Instagram handle is @NickGinsberg. And then once you do that, flick me a direct message and say hi. I have loved seeing the messages that you guys have sent through, so thank you. But if you haven't done that, please make sure you do, because I'd love for this to be a two-way conversation if possible. In today's episode, I want to talk about the process of going to see a psychologist. I go see someone, his name is Dave, he's incredible. But I want to talk about the lead up to that, when that lead up started, my fears. I want to talk about why I didn't go for so long. And I really want to kind of shed light on that whole experience for you, because I think it is a really important thing that we do to try and break the stigma that is attached to mental health, mental well-being, all of that. I think by sharing stories and being open and honest about the experience will help break some of that stigma. And so I'm going to do my part and share my story with you today. So I hope you enjoy it. I am going to be, as always, very honest, very real. It'll be very unfiltered. So I hope you enjoy listening. So buckle up, let's go. So to give you a bit of history, my experiences with psychologists, I mean, I've had very little other than my current psychologist, Dave. When I was a kid, with everything that I'd been through, there were people around me that had mentioned that I should go see someone to talk it through, because it was quite heavy and it was tough for a kid to really process. And I remember a family member forcefully taking me to go talk to a psychologist. I was in my teens. I don't know when. It's all a bit blurry, but essentially because there had to have been something wrong. And that I maybe wasn't processing it as well as I should. And this is the very first part of the story that I want to share with you, because I think it kind of adds to the follow-on. So I went to see this woman. I don't remember her name. I don't remember really what she looks like. But I sat down, I talked to her, and then this woman brought my family member back in and essentially said, no, he's processing it fine. You don't need to worry. And then I guess from that point is I thought, well, I can do this on my own. I can process it. And not saying that advice from that psychologist was good or bad or whatever. It did sort of put in my head that, well, I can manage this on my own. This is something that I can do. I've done it before. I can manage it on my own. And so I didn't talk to a professional up until, so that was when I was in my teens. I started going to see Dave in 2019. We are in 2021. I'm 35. So I went, am I 35? Yes, I'm 35. I went to see Dave 2 years ago. So I want to, let's talk about the in-between. So in between that first woman and Dave now, my thought process around that and getting help and all of that. So when it kind of started sort of thinking I should probably see someone was in my early 20s. And it wasn't because I had a severe mental illness. It wasn't because I was breaking down. It wasn't because I was falling apart. Nothing like that. It was, I wanted to be able to try and process it better. But the thing that held me back is because I didn't feel like I was breaking down or I didn't have a mental illness or anything like that, I felt like I was taking a position away. Also, I was terrified of going to see someone because I thought that they would open the lid and everything would come crashing out and I would fall apart and not be able to put back together. Because I'd put everything in its place. And I know you'll hear bits of this story. You've heard bits of it throughout the last 20 odd episodes, but this is the full story. So I'd put bits and pieces in their place, and then to have someone kind of open the lid on that and rummage through terrified me. I thought that I would fall apart and not be able to process it. So I got rid of that thought in my early 20s. Just, not doing it. I'm fine. I'm processing it fine. That woman said I was processing it fine. I'm good. And then I moved to Melbourne and there was lots happening. I met Ricky, my now husband. And I've shared this story, but when we first met, 2 weeks in, I think it was very early into the relationship, I shared all of my dirty laundry and went, this is all my baggage. Can you handle it? And of course he could. He said, well, of course, that's fine. And we talked it through. But he's always been quite a big cheerleader around me looking after myself mentally. So being able to process what's happened, to talk through with someone that isn't connected. He's also experienced firsthand what I've gone through. So just because I've shared with you the stories of my childhood, that doesn't mean that ended when I turned 18. So all of the stuff that I was dealing with in terms of, in particular, Louise, that has continued right through. It's gotten better, but not, and that's just because of distance, right? But he's been able to experience some of that firsthand. And so he was always a very big cheerleader for me going to talk to someone and process that with someone that was removed from the story. And so from like the first year that we were dating right through, he would be, anytime something major would happen, he would say, I think it'd be really good for you to go speak to someone. Have you thought about it? All of that. And it thoroughly terrified me. And I'm not being over dramatic with this. It terrified me to go talk to someone. And really because of that fear of not being able to be put back together. And so it took a long time for me to cave. And really what happened there were a few things that happened in the lead up. So we got our dog Max, who's a miniature Dachshund, little sausage dog. He is the cutest thing you'll ever see in your life. If you haven't seen him and you want to see him, head to my Instagram. There's photos posted on there. But when we got him, that was in November of 2016. And it was the first time that I was really solely responsible for the well-being of something. I'd had pets, but with my parents, and but never for us. And I totally broke down. I cried for days. I was so scared that we had made the wrong choice and that we weren't going to be able to give him the best home. I mean, all of it was completely... it wasn't a fear I needed to worry about, because obviously we can look after a dog. He has the best life ever. As I'm recording this, he is on his big plush bed in our lounge room, wrapped up in like 4 blankets, living his actual best life. So he is living the dream, right? But for me, taking care of someone panicked me, because I thought, oh my God, I don't want to... It scared me because I didn't want to replicate, even with a dog, what my parents did and the struggles that they had. And then I worried that some of it was in me. And of course I broke down and yada, yada, yada. And here we were. So there was that major incident that happened. And I remember talking to friends during this time and crying. And one of my friends was like, Nick, it's a dog. You know how to look after a dog. But I just couldn't do it. And then it made me think, because Ricky and I want to have kids at some point, and it made me go, well, holy heck, if I'm doing that with a dog, I need to sort something out. But then, of course, the fear took over of opening up and not being able to be put back together. So I pushed it away and didn't think about it. And then those next 2 years, so 2 and a bit years after we got Max, moments were happening. So mum was on and off quite unwell, or she'd have these sort of fluctuations in health. Louise was going through an incredibly difficult time. She lost both of her parents. And that meant that when that happened, she really fell apart. And I was the one that was directly impacted on that for the most part. So I would get these long calls. She would scream and yell at me. She would never remember any of it. And on and off in those 2 years, there were moments where I went, I really should talk to someone. I really should talk to someone. I really should talk to someone. And then we were due to go over to New York for a friend's wedding. And we were about to get on the plane. This was, I think, the night before. And I had to call the ambulance on Louise for them to come and take her away because she was so bad. And keep in mind, I'm in Melbourne. She's in Brisbane. And that was, I think I was up till maybe 2 a.m. doing that. And we were flying out the next day. And I remember getting to New York, getting to our hotel room. It was at like 1 a.m. We'd just gotten pizza in Times Square because I was like, I would have eaten the bed. And the next day I wake up and I said to Ricky, I need to go see someone. I can't let... I need to find better ways of dealing with this so that I'm not being impacted so negatively. And that meant that I didn't want to have, and it's selfish and it's good that it was selfish, but I didn't want this amazing trip of a lifetime of going to New York to be completely, the first part of it completely ruined by my feelings for what had just happened. And I was so angry that would happen the day before our trip. And I wanted to be able to process that better so that in future that didn't happen. And so I got back. I made an appointment with my GP. By the way, we had a fantastic trip. New York is, I mean, I still look at real estate on there. We would never move, but I mean, I look at real estate on there all the time. If we won Lotto and got like $60 million, I would absolutely buy a property there and we'd spend time each year there. Anyways, enough about New York. But it was incredible. I got back, booked an appointment with my GP, and if you haven't gone through this process before, I'll be very transparent with what is discussed during the GP appointment because I think it's important because it kind of threw me off a little. So I sat down with my GP and said, look, this is a bit about my story. I'm feeling this way and I want to be able to process things slightly better. Can I get a mental health plan and a referral to a good psych? He then got me to run through, and I keep forgetting the name of this test. And if you're in the medical profession and you know what this is, please reach out to me. But if not, just Google it. He ran through this test where I had to mark how I'm feeling essentially on a series of questions. And that threw me off because I thought, first of all, I'm an overachiever. So as soon as you put like a piece of paper down with a quiz in front of me, I was like, wait, am I doing the right thing? And I had to keep reminding myself to be honest and make sure that it's not about getting a good score. It's about really being transparent and honest. So I tried to do that. And then he referred me, because I'd said to my GP, I want someone, the only requirements is I want someone who understands the LGBTQ plus community. I don't want to have to explain my relationship with my husband. I don't want to have to explain that I have two mums. It's not something I want to do. So my GP instantly knew of someone that he thought, yep, he'll be a good match for you. Gave me a referral to go see Dave. A couple of weeks later, I think it was a couple of weeks later, I booked in, went for my first session with Dave, and I was so incredibly nervous. I was so nervous. I was a ball of anxiety. I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. And so I sat down, and I'm quite an honest person. So I sat down and I said everything that I wanted to say. And I sat down, Dave explained the process to me and asked me really if I have any questions. And I said, yeah, or any fears. I said, yeah, of course I've got fears. I'm scared that you're going to pull me apart and I'm not going to be able to be put back together. That old Pandora's box thing, I don't want you to lift the lid and then everything's just out. How do I then get back to be functioning? And then I've shared this before, I was worried that because I'm not severely mentally unwell, that I would be taking a position away from someone that really needed it. And that by using the mental health plan, that I was taking that away from someone else. And Dave was incredible in how he talked to me about this. He explained to me that that's not how it works, and that everyone should have the right to look after their mental health and to speak to a professional. And that I'm not taking a place away from someone who may need it more. It is not a competition around who needs a psych more, and therefore that person must get all the appointment slots. That's not how it works. And then he explained to me, which I think is really important to share, and I think I've shared a part of this before, but I want to sort of share it again, particularly in this episode, that he shared with me that it is, so the sessions are not about opening Pandora's box and just letting it all fly. It is controlled and measured, and that I should never leave the room feeling like I'm broken. He then clarified that I will feel like I will feel raw and vulnerable leaving the session, and it may take days to feel back to sort of proper quote unquote my normal state. And he was right. That first session, I mean, we have 50-minute sessions or just over, and it flew. We talked about a bunch of stuff, of course. And I felt raw for days, but I had never felt better about, I'd never been so sure that I'd done the right thing before. That was really good. It was such a good session. I got so much out of it. I connected with Dave. And that's one of the things that he shared with me, is that if you don't feel a connection between the two of us, so if you don't think that I'm the right person for you, don't come back. And I loved that. I thought that was really cool, because you're sharing the most vulnerable parts of yourself and you want to make sure you've got a really good connection. So I guess, so that's the story, right? And I've now been seeing him for 2 years, and he's helped me work through an incredible amount of my childhood. We are nowhere near done. There is still a lot to work through. And even for this podcast, we've been through 20 odd episodes. That's just the surface, right? So you can imagine what I've shared on here. What I've shared with Dave is more, and we've still got lots to go, right? So it has been so incredible. But I want to share with you, if you have gone to see someone before and you felt that it isn't a right process for you, or you're scared to go see someone because they may not be the right person for you, if that is any of your fears or you've had that experience, please note that you can find someone that is right for you. It is okay for you to shop around and find the right professional for you to share what is happening with you and to talk and look after, talk about and look after your mental health. It's okay for you to shop around to find that person. Because if you don't have that connection and you don't have that trust and that safe space to be able to share, you aren't going to get out of it what really you should be allowed to get out of it. So that is my biggest tip. And I'm sure my psych Dave would agree with that if it's not working, go find someone else. It's really important. So that's really the main story. This is an ongoing, evolving thing. Oh, actually, before I wrap up this episode, and now you get to see that I don't actually edit properly. This is just me talking. I want to share with you that there are times where your psych is going to say something to you that you are going to go, what the hell? So I still remember, and I spoke about this in the forgiveness episode, so I won't do too much, but he first spoke to me about the idea of forgiveness and showing compassion towards certain situations and people in my life. And I said, and I was fine in the session. Like, I remember going, what the fuck? Apologies for swearing. But I remember doing that. And then I thought, what the hell? You can't, like, why would you do that? And then, of course, I went away and I thought about it, and he was right. And so I see him monthly. And so over that next month, I tried it and it bloody worked. And I came back to him and I said, I'm going to be honest. I was pissed at you at the end of last session. I was annoyed that you had challenged my thinking and was asking me to show compassion towards a person or an event that I felt annoyed about, or that I was not happy happened. But I did it and it worked. So there are going to be those moments. They're there to challenge your thinking. And so it was brilliant. So I just wanted to share that. That is something that's really important, I think, in terms of the process and being open and honest and vulnerable. And that's why you need someone that you can create such a safe space in. So that's my journey for finding someone to really get help. It's not because I have any crippling mental health issues. And even if I did, that's fine. But it's because I need help processing what happened. A lot happened, and it's important that you can talk to someone. Now, your experience in terms of childhood experience or life experiences don't have to be the same as mine. They could be much worse, much better, whatever. Who cares? You still may need help talking through that. After going through this process, I'm such a big believer that everybody should have a chance at some point in their life to sit down and discuss their life with a professional. Discuss what's happened. See if they have processed it properly. Is there anything that is a flow-on effect from a traumatic event? Have you dealt with that properly? Then no, well then let's go talk to someone. You know, like I think it's so important. And this is why I'm so passionate about ending the stigma surrounding mental health, because there are so many people, and unfortunately it's particularly men, who don't go and seek help because they view it as weak, that they should be able to process their life on their own without intervention. And it's so silly. There is no need. Everybody should have the right to go and talk to someone about their mental health, regardless of whether they have a mental health issue or not. It should be looked at just as if you were to go to your GP and talk about your physical health. And so if you can, I want to just ask you all to please make sure that you share your mental health stories. Be open and honest with the people around you about your mental health, even if it's just, I'm not having a very good day. As a society, we need to do so much better around this stigma, and it's one of the sole reasons why I do this podcast is to end the stigma around mental health, to talk about it, to end the stigma around traumatic events and childhood experiences and all of that. So please try and share your story, even if it is just with the people that are closest to you that you feel safe with, because it has a ripple-on effect. Because then those people feel safe about sharing their story, and they'll do it with their close people, and then on and on and on it goes. So thank you for listening. This was a very important episode for me to record, so I'm thrilled. If you've made it to the end, bravo. I will see you next week in another episode. We've only got a few more left of this season, and then we'll be back next year. But I will see you next week. Make sure you come and follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a message. Say hi. I can't wait to hear from you all. I will talk to you soon. Have a fantastic time doing whatever it is you're doing. See you later.